Hey everyone, welcome back to the Good Dental Media Insider Series. I'm Adrienne Good, and today I'm joined by Sallie Henry, founder of Clutch Agency and an expert in dental recruitment. Sallie has over 20 years of experience placing dentists and building high-performing teams across the country. And today we're diving into what's really happening behind the scenes, hiring, and how practices can actually get it right. Thanks for joining me, Sallie.
Of course. Excited to be here. Happy Friday.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you've been in the industry a while. We've met multiple times at different awesome conventions, and I've gotten to know you as a person. And I really felt like we needed to have this conversation and just get the word out more about what you're doing behind the scenes in dentistry. Um, I don't want I don't want this to be a brag session. I do want to ask some
No, yeah,
questions to help
absolutely.
dentists. However, you know, I think it's worthy of talking about some of the dentists that you've worked with in the past and how you've helped them. So maybe touch on that a little bit before we jump in.
Yeah. So, little snippet about me. I've been in recruiting decades. I won't date myself. I'm an oldie but
I'm not doing
goodie for
that.
sure. Yeah, for sure. So started in medical. I was in recruiting physicians for 13 years and then transitioned to dental, where I was the head of clinical recruiting at Affordable Dentures and Implants. So had the
Okay.
opportunity to work with a lot of great clinicians. Some of those that kind of come to the top of my forefront is Dr. Jumike Adedoyan. Love her to pieces. She's one
Yeah.
of my favorites. Dan Fenton, also, he's the real deal. He's just an A-class human. Um, and many of you know probably Dan Holtzclaw, he's world renowned, right? I
And
mean,
before, yeah.
he's had some
Love
some
it.
fun some fun times. So yes, was able to collaborate with a lot of well-known dentists in the organization industry. Yep, thank you. Um, and as I continued, I founded Clutch. I decided to take a leap of faith in myself probably 2 years ago and founded Clutch Agency. So it's a recruitment agency specializing specifically in the dental space, and dentist only at this point, right? So that's what I know. That's my
Right.
jam. Built those
Say what you know.
relationships. Yeah. So I am working with current state. I am working with DSOs, private practices across the nation to place top talent. So, and the reason why I actually decided to take that leap, of course, you don't want to be at the end of your career, your life, and like regrets, right? I believe in myself, but it's also an opportunity to expand my reach, right? I
Definitely.
get back to what my passion is, like, right? My major was human resource, right? Though I'm not clinical, I feel like I'm an extension of the clinical team. When you hire a good doctor, there's nothing more rewarding than that. People are like, oh my God, Dr. So-and-so is amazing. I'm like, I hired,
You're like, I knew.
right? Yeah, I know. Great, right? You're giving back. I don't know. So here we
I love
are.
it. I love
Founder
it. I love that I
living
can
the
just
dream.
shoot you a text and be like, "Hey, do you know anybody in this state?" And you're like,
Yeah,
"Yep."
yep.
Great.
It's
And
all about
you're a great
relationships
resource.
and the real ones. That's
Yeah,
what makes the difference, right?
true.
The real ones.
Yeah,
So, yep.
good ones. So, uh,
Yeah.
you know, shameless plug, but it's like, if you want some good ones, you might want to reach out to Sallie.
Correct. Correct. I won't steal your wrong.
So
Yep.
let's dig into recruitment in general in dentistry and just talk about the vibe, I guess, right now in this
Yeah,
space.
for
So
sure.
when you talk about transparent recruitment, what does that actually mean in dentistry today, and why is that so important right now?
Good question. Right. So I truly believe um, that it starts with transparency, right? And again, when I say that, transparency to me in the dental space is removing that sales layer, right? And replacing that with conversations that align with what the doctor's truly wanting from the very beginning. You're not selling your organization. You're trying to find out what these doctors truly want in a position, in an organization, right?
Mhm.
Um, and for Clutch specifically, transparency is not about just filling a seat. It's about having those real conversations from the very beginning about what success looks like from both parties before an offer is even extended, right? It's um
It could be
trying
different for any practice, I'm assuming,
it can,
and
right?
values, things like that, right?
Yeah. And why I think it matters so much today is because the workforce has changed, right? The dentists have more options. They have leverage and they have higher expectations. So and that's I mean, unfortunately, but that's the nature of the business right now, right? And so um I think if I could answer this question in one sentence, I think it would be this. Transparency builds trust.
Love that.
Trust creates long-term placements, not short-term hires. That's the difference. That's the key to transparency recruitment in my mind.
I love
Yep.
that. And that actually does stem into my next question, which was hiring challenges in general, maybe not being actually talent shortages, but alignment problems.
Hmm.
Did you want to touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's no question that the dental space is competitive right now, right? It's a
For sure.
competitive landscape. Where
Mhm.
no one's arguing that. But I do think sometimes organizations misdiagnose the problem, so to speak, right? There's a lot labeled shortage, talent shortage, right?
Mhm.
And when you what it actually comes down to is a mismatch of what the candidate is looking for versus what the practice is offering, right? So, for example, a practice may say, I'm having a really hard time hiring an associate, but if you dig a little deeper, the compensation doesn't align with the market, right? They're scheduling, requiring 5 days a week, and the dentist only wants to work four, right? There's no growth potential within the organization. I mean, there's multiple facets to why they're not able to hire a dentist. It's not necessarily just the shortage, if that makes sense, right? They're getting activity, they're getting candidates, they're not aligning with what they want.
Right.
So there's a little bit of a difference. And we flip the switch. I think previously there was a plethora and candidates weren't able to be selective like they are now. It's the market has shifted. It's a candidate market versus an employer market.
And from that candidate side, what are dentists and hygienists really looking for today beyond just pay, compensation? Can you list
Um,
off maybe
I
a few
mean,
things?
compensation still matters. Don't get me wrong,
Right.
right? I mean,
Definitely.
absolutely,
Yeah.
always will be,
Yeah.
but I don't think it's the primary differentiator that the candidates are basing their decision on current state, right? I think, and we've really seen that post-COVID. Um,
Mm.
and they're wanting they're wanting a healthy culture. They're wanting that work-life balance, right? They're wanting clinical autonomy, but at the same time, mentorship, right? But they're wanting mentorship and clinical autonomy, but not being micromanaged.
Right.
So I think as it come, specifically as I look at associates, um, that's what I think that's one of the biggest things when they're coming out of school, they're wanting that mentorship, but again, without micromanaging, right? There's one thing to help them along their way and their journey on the clinical aspect, but also from a leadership perspective too. I think the practices in my mind that are winning today are the ones that create environments that people genuinely want to be a part of.
Right. And
So,
that was going to be my question was actually going into leadership and that aligning um, with successful recruiting and that becoming long-term retention.
mhm.
Yeah, I mean, alignment is everything when it comes to leadership.
Right.
Is there anything else you wanted to touch on as far as leadership goes and mentoring within the practice?
Um, I think, one of the mistakes as we look at like my not hiring mistakes, but maybe some gaps or some visionary tracks. I don't know. I'm like a lot of times DSOs and practices focus on that only on the clinical qualifications, right? And miss the, I don't know, cultural leadership fit, right?
Mhm.
You can most, and I'm speaking to DSOs, a lot of DSOs have partnerships with education institutions now, right? There's a lot out there that they have partnership with. Maybe they actually acquired a training institution, right? So you can teach that clinical aspect. You can't teach grit. You can't teach being a good human. Some of those those leadership culture, attributes, you need to dig a little deeper in because that's when you get a good culture fit, value alignment, that's when you start getting that long-term placement. Again, I keep going long-term placement versus short-term hire,
Right,
right? You're
right.
you're building a culture. So I think as you, I don't know if that was a question, but
Yeah.
if there's anything some recommendations as to hiring process, that is what I would say. Yep.
Okay. So, looking ahead,
Hmm.
where do you see dental recruitment going in the next like 3 to 5 years?
Oh, gosh, good question. Where do I see dental recruitment going in 3 to 5 years?
I mean, I'm sure there's AI is a huge component.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I believe, again, I'm going to talk to specifically dentist recruitment, right? I believe
Mhm.
dentist recruitment is becoming more, as I already spoke to several times, cultural and more of a relationship fit, right? Overall fit. Technology, AI, there's no doubt that it's going to change recruitment. I think that AI will eventually be handling the sourcing, the screening, the matching of the
Mhm.
profiles from a candidate perspective to an employer perspective, right? I think
Right.
they're going to be doing a lot of that in the future state.
I mean,
However,
yeah, yeah, I was gonna say, but I think you can't touch on the
yeah,
human side of
however,
that
it is not going, the technology is a shift on the recruiting and sourcing side, but it's not going to become less human. It's not at all. What it's going to focus on is like, hey, AI is already going to identify the matching section.
though. Hmm.
Now it's a cultural fit, right? That's when the organizations are going to win, the ones that are building the culture that are standing out to these candidates. Once they already know that the top three, I don't know, priorities are matching, right? There's still going to be a human level. It's always going to be a human level of recruitment, always. I mean, AI is going to do a lot on the front end, but recruitment and the culture and the alignment is always going to be on the back end. Um, I think I think recruitment firms are going to be shifting towards more of a strategic partnership, right? They're going to be focusing on long-term retention strategies, right? And it starts with recruiting. If they have a bad hiring process, onboarding process, it's that immediately starts affecting retention. I mean, I think it's almost a mindset shift that organizations and practices have to come to grips with, right? But I think recruitment firms are going to be more of a partnership rather than just the sourcing and candidate funnel.
Absolutely. I'm sure that there's a lot that practices can do to prepare for recruitment, onboarding, different things that qualities probably that practices have versus others that make them a better candidate. They're all things to consider for sure. And
Mhm. Yeah.
you have that knowledge, you have the experience, you have the connections. You've been in this space a long time. So I think, somebody connecting with you versus, you know, a tool
Right, right.
could take them a lot further. So that's definitely why I wanted to chat with you today. And if anybody was questioning whether or not they should use an agency like yours versus something that doesn't have that personal touch, uh, I hope that you've touched on enough to convince somebody to reach
Yeah,
out to
no,
you.
absolutely. And it's, guys, and it's, I think one last thing I would say, I think don't wait. I think a lot of times one of the biggest mistakes people make in recruiting is reactive rather than strategic, proactive approach,
Okay.
right?
Yeah,
Don't
that's
wait
good advice.
until like someone's given their notice and or your loss of production. And so you're hiring based on timeline, you're not hiring
Scrambling.
intentionally. Now you're just taking the best thing that you can get, and it necessarily wasn't a good fit. And guess what? You're going to do it again in 6 months. So
Right.
it's a proactive approach to recruiting, right? It's truly talent acquisition. It is, and do build out a succession plan. Think about 3 to 5 years out, which doctors are going to retire. Start being strategic in that approach when you're replacing doctors. So, if I think the future of dentistry, um, just won't be about finding candidates. It's going to be about creating environments that people want to stay at.
Ooh, I love that. I love that.
Yep. Yep.
Take me through, first off, where can somebody find you if they wanted more information?
Yeah,
What's your website?
absolutely. So our website is recruitwithclutch.com.
Okay.
Uh, so, yep,
Or
we
LinkedIn. I'm sure LinkedIn, right?
LinkedIn. Yeah.
And
Yes.
then
Yes,
take me
correct.
through the process. Like if somebody reaches out to you to learn more, take me through that process of
Yep,
what they would
absolutely.
do to
So
hire you.
we have an introductory call, right? So we'll talk about if it is, if it's a private practice doctor, whoever that may be, large DSO, we'll talk about what you guys are looking for, the challenges that you've had, right? What's worked, what hasn't. And so we'll go through, what you're looking for, if that's and the process and what you current state, what you guys are utilizing, that the client is utilizing. I will talk about what Clutch is able to offer, right? So it's a contingency based contract. Just I think that's important to know. So there is no upfront cost. There's
Okay.
no out-of-pocket expense.
Okay.
My team and I are only getting paid once a contract is executed.
Okay.
We're taking on the sourcing liability, the marketing cost, right? We're delivering on what we can do, right? We're only
Right.
getting paid when you sign a doctor. So I think I've been in your shoes. I've been on the hiring side, right? So I put myself in that place. So I think that's key, number one. But we will talk about what's important in your practice. Again, I'm going to go back to it's not just clinical fit. It's a culture fit, it's a personality fit, what you're looking for, growth projection of your practice, right? To make sure everything is in alignment. I can't like reiterate enough about the alignment piece. That's huge. I don't think we talk about it. We've never talked about alignment in recruitment ever. Here's it
Mhm.
is, this is what it is, and take it or leave it. It's about alignment in all facets. But we can go on a tangent on that. But once if we'll do an introductory call, we'll go over what Clutch provides, background checks, vetting process, sourcing, what that looks like. And if that's something that a candidate or a client wants to move forward with, then we would send, uh, you know, service overview, our draft contracts, in an intake form. This is the key, guys. I want to be an extension of your practice. I can't sell something that I don't know about. We
Mhm.
only get one time sometimes to get these doctors on the phone. And so when again, if I'm representing a practice, I damn well not have to know my shit. When they're asking questions and I'm saying, oh, good question, let me find out. Oh, that's a good question, let me find out. It does not present well. Like
Right.
that's not okay.
Right.
So the more information I am equipped with on the front end, the better execution and delivery I can do for your practice. So there is an intake form, and I am hard pressed. If I don't have it all completed, you're going to hear me be the pesky mouse in your ear. Hey, you've got this, you've got this, you've got this. But I can't do it. I can't do my job
Right.
like if without this
But
information.
it's all to
So
help them. That's all to
it
help.
is, it is absolutely, absolutely. So that's the process. And if that looks forward, sign a contract, and then I start sourcing. I create a marketing campaign for them. Everything that goes out, they approve. A client approves. There's nothing that goes out without them approving. And we go from there. We source. I said there's a name clear process, but it's very simple, sweet to the point. My team and I can be involved as little or as much as you want. Some clients ask us to do the interview process, to manage that, to the contract negotiations. We can do the full gamut. Others send me an name clear, send me their CV, background check. We'll take it from there. So it's completely up to the client.
All right. Good to know. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for joining me today. This is
Yeah,
all
I'm
very
excited.
valuable
Yeah, thank you for
information.
having me. Yes,
Yeah, and
absolutely.
if you see Sally walking down the halls at your local trade show, you better stop
Yes,
her and ask some
yes, yes,
questions.
yes.
She's full of
Absolutely.
valuable information.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, have a great weekend.